My name is Nadia Solomon, and I am a creator and member of Kids Comics Unites. And joining me today is Maritza Ruiz-Kim and Edna Kabkabin Murat. And we are all members of KCU, and we are excited to share with you our anthology book that's going to be coming out, and we're going to be launching Kickstarter soon. And so we're just going to talk to two of the creators who have art in the book. So Maritza, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about what you contributed to the project.
Love to. So I'll tell you a little bit about how the process kind of came about. We've been working on this anthology for what, like a year and a half?
Mm-hmm.
I've
Yes.
lost count how many months.
Yeah.
It's been a very long time. um, and it's there's been I think now we have over 30 creators internationally, and we started out with more than that in the beginning, and everyone contributed as much as they can as long as they were able to stay in the project. But here we are after all this time, and there was a process in getting the point where we got to this title and this theme, Let's Go. It's a theme that's about journeys, stories about journeys and chance encounters. And this is part of the cover art that was created. We'll tell you a little bit more about that later on. But the process of getting the comics from all the creators was kind of extensive, but super necessary to bring about this collection of unique and really high quality stories. So I'm excited to share those. I'll go ahead and open my Zoom and sharing and show you some of these. Let's see, where are we?
There
Here
we
we
go.
are. Okay. Yeah. So this is my comic. It is Tara Trips Up, and I'll kind of describe what's happening as well as reading it, just in case anybody is only listening and not looking at the images. But what we see is a little owl and her squirrel friend, and they're sitting on little apartment furniture up in their nest, up in the height of the tree, and they're looking out as a flock of birds passes by. And so the owl, who's named Tara, is sitting in her sofa chair. Her friend is Nibs, and Nibs is right behind her. And Tara's looking out at these birds. And so she kind of just gets enamored with them, and she kind of just like moves forward and is like big eyes, amazed. And so she says, "Wow, how do they do that?" And Nib says, "Do what?" And Tara says, "They fly so fast." And she's just, enamored, looking up, zombied out. And she keeps walking towards the edge of the nest. And Nibs cries out, "Tara, be careful, Tara." And that's when you see the owl exits the scene, appears to have fallen. So you'll have to tune in to the rest of the anthology to see the whole comic. But that is the first page of a 6-page comic. So yeah,
That
that
is
is my
super
story. I
cool.
can tell you a little bit more about the process of how contributors ended up getting uh, their stories into the anthology, but I'll give it over to Edna so she could share her story with us.
My comic is called The Galaxy Next Door, and this is my first page in the comic. Um, and there's 5 panels here for those people who, need a little help with the visuals. And it features a family in the top panel, and then it moves on to a conversation between 2 characters in the rest. And so I'll read it, and we can get it and sort of describe the scene. But they've landed on a new planet. They're exploring a planet. And I guess we're going to talk more about the background of our stories
Yes.
after this. Okay.
Oh, that's right.
So
Yep.
yeah,
Okay.
last
We
time.
we we
Okay.
have to, and I wasn't going to let
Okay.
you forget that.
Okay. Okay, so have fun exploring, kids. Remember to be back here by 1300. Copy that. Okay, let's go, Kitbot. The data says you're wearing a historic garment. Huh? It's a retro tee with a cartoon character. which you can tell by the fact that it only has 4 fingers. Just 4 fingers? Hmm, I didn't notice. Anyway, Mom says it's an oldie parody t-shirt, whatever that means. Well, enough talking, Kitbot. Let's look around. Sure thing, Trina. So there's that what do you call it? Page turn thing.
Hmm.
Find out the rest of the story in the next few pages.
Okay. So the whole
Hmm.
theme and point of the anthology is that we're discovering adventure and then we're discovering new encounters. And with yours, you have like that second layer of like hint, hint, wink, wink, to the audience if everyone would know what's happening with the t-shirt of your character. And I thought that was really funny because we were, well, I got stuck on thinking one way, totally linear, but you actually had something else in mind.
Yeah, my t-shirt is a nod to popular culture.
Hmm.
In my story, essentially the premise of my story is that there's a family traveling the galaxy. The parents are scientists doing research, and the kids are along for the ride. It's their lifestyle. And so they're on this new planet and exploring it. The kids, it's they have the A-OK to go with their little bot. Each of them has a bot.
That's
And
awesome.
Trina's, thank you, and Trina's is Kitbot. So they're going off on an adventure, and she's wearing this t-shirt that comes from a certain mid-century era in the US, in the United States, the character. So it's a nod to that. And there's a real interesting behind the scenes story, but I could talk about that a little more detail later.
Sure.
So
So, how did we come up with the theme of, adventure and journeys? Because I know we did a poll and asked people in the community what they wanted to write about. And so, how did we
Mhm.
land on the journey and the encounters?
I'm going to take that,
Yeah,
Maritza, and then talk about yours.
sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. There was a poll, they asked everybody like what were the themes that were coming in to mind for them and for the stories they had in mind or what they think would be appropriate and of interest to middle grade students. So they got a bunch of responses from people, and there seemed to be almost a consensus around two things, and that was going on a journey and kind of a creature, like a creature friend, creature kind of meetup.
Hmm.
So those two were the things that became the kind of the guiding theme for creation. And so at part of the creation of the anthology, there was like the editorial committee or the publishing committee. I think it was editorial committee. Took everyone through like a series of stages in developing the comic. And so the first stage was just to get a very simple like overview of what story people had in mind. And the purpose of that was so that there wouldn't be, like two or like a bunch of stories that had like the same storyline, and just kind of mitigate that and make sure that could be resolved early in the process. That didn't turn out to be a problem at all. But yeah, at that point in the process, just before, as I was kind of like, what is my story going to be about? I have no idea. What's my character? Who's my character? Like you're kind of racking your brain, searching your heart, like what is the story I want to tell, and what character is going to be a vehicle for that story I want to tell. And I was in my backyard, and I just so happened to look up, and there was these two great horned owls up in my redwood trees in my yard, and they were hooting, and they had chosen my tree. And owls don't necessarily like, it could just be one of their rotating trees. I don't think it's their nesting tree, but it was just kind of like one of the trees that they would visit um, in their afternoon outings. And it was just amazing to see them and just to like these incredible creatures. They're huge. They are silent flyers. I got into a whole thing of like learning all about owls, and that just became the character I wanted to embody, the story I had to tell. And so like the story that ended up coming to the surface most importantly, I think for me was this idea of like being someone who like wants to go and like wants to fly and somehow it's not working out. And like, what do you do? Like, what do you do when you not only have one time have something not work out, but repeated? Like, what do you do with your dreams? What do you do with your hopes? And so that's kind of the story for my character, besides the fact that I have a condition where I am clumsy and get injured at times, more than I want to admit. So it happens, and I have to heal and recover. And it's frustrating to have that physical pain and physical challenges. And so I wanted to bring that to my character too. So that is how Tara began her journey. And you have to find out how she concludes or continues her journey.
Continues, yeah.
after
Yeah, I'm like, okay, where'd
doing
she
whatever
go?
happened at the end of that net. Yeah, where did she go?
Where did she go? How about you, Edna?
Well, for me, I was really into comics as a kid, and part of my inspiration for doing this character, Trina, and the family, is that I love like physics when I was in my teens, and when I was younger, I was into watching uh, shows like Star Trek. I wasn't a big into that, but I also watched old stuff that would come on, like the Lost in Space. So I was inspired to do a story. It just came to me that there could be this family that wasn't lost, and the idea of coming across that was just kind of random. Like I thought about cartoons having a lot of cartoons have four fingers. And so I thought, what if somebody, there was a character with four fingers on another planet. So I don't want to say too much because that's in the story, but so that developed and into this 4-page concept for me. And I loved it so much. I like it so much that I'm continuing with the story, and
Oh, yay!
I'm expanding it into, a chapter book type of thing,
I love that.
hybrid thing. To me, it has more lives. I have other stories that I'm working on with these characters.
Yeah, definitely. Me too. It's like it just became part of the world that I'm really interested in filling out. So that's cool.
So now for the anthology, like what is the overall goal for this project that we're doing with KCU? We've had talks about this before where, we could have chosen to go the traditional route but opted not to and decided to go through a Kickstarter um, you know, mode of getting this book produced. And so why did we opt for Kickstarter?
I can say that the the idea for Kickstarter was partly because we had tried other crowdfunding before as a group, and there was an interest in going with like the big guns in when it comes to crowdfunding, which is Kickstarter. A lot of comics and anthologies, and just people who are into the comic scene use Kickstarter and
Yeah,
all
it's a
that.
home for comics.
Yeah, and so a lot of
Yeah.
when this idea came about, we really wanted to get the experience of what it was like to be part of an anthology first, and to have work in it, and also there's a strong interest in what is it like to self-publish. Those are like two major projects just on their own, just to
Right.
create a book, and even just to come up with characters in a comic. Really, three
Right.
parts to
Right.
it.
Yeah.
So
Because it'll be my first experience in getting my work into a book that's published, traditional or self-published. This is my first of any kind, so that's a pretty exciting experience for me.
Yeah.
And I think the decision for choosing like a self publishing journey and like the crowdfunded journey versus traditional is because traditional, as you know, just has like
Yeah.
so many kind of gatekeepers to pass through, and you have to have kind of a completed proposal. Like graphic novels aren't necessarily finished at the get-go. You're bringing a synopsis and finished panels and chapters, but there's like a a co-development you have with your editorial team once you're ready to go with the graphic novel. But this anthology, like, how would we make that work? How would we present this to a traditional publisher? And then you've got once you've gotten that, acceptance, then you've got the 1 to 2 year process of print. It's just kind of a whole thing. And I think we just want to get our work out into the hands of people that we know. And with 30 people, like, pooling together like all of the people that we know and that care about us and our work, like, coming together, it makes it so much more possible. So
Mhm.
I think that's kind of like a no-brainer at the end of the day, but at the beginning, it was like, oh, do we want to do? Yes, we can do it. We can. And then there's all this excitement. And then there's the slog of, like, all the planning and all the work. And now we're in the hyper excited, like, let's go
Let's
mode.
go.
So yeah,
Definitely live in that title.
yeah,
So,
exactly. Let's go, let's
well,
go. So
for me, it was like I'd never done self-publishing. I'm from the traditional publishing.
oh, right. Yeah, you're
I
definitely. Mhm.
and picture books. And in the anthology side of things, I've been in anthologies as a poet, so
Mm.
not in comics. And to do comics, it really is going back for me, back to my experience as a kid, because I was totally into comics. We both have sort
Right.
of different
Same.
experiences too around
We do.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
in comics itself. And so
Tell me about yours. You had, like, a early experience with loving comics.
let's see, didn't get into books like illustrated books as I was really into chapter books and didn't even I skipped picture books, funny as it is, and I'm a picture book other illustrator. But that was later when I fell in love with them when I was in my teens, funny enough. But I was
Hmm.
super into comics in grade school, and I had a huge collection. I had like I just collected piles of them and
Yep.
loved them. And then I would share them. I would sell them to my friends, resell them so I can get more.
Hmm.
We'd
Yeah.
have little
Your
sales.
little side hustle.
Yeah. So it was a lot of
He's like, I
fun.
gotta make the bucks. I
Yeah.
need more. I need more.
And I'm totally inspired by comics in my drawing style. I was into art as a very young child, very, very young. But when I got a little older, I noticed the styles. I noticed that comics had consistency in how
Mm.
characters were drawn and how action was done. And so I tried to emulate that. And so when I created my character, there's some of that, like my nod to certain styles. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So
That's super cool. Well, I know
mhm.
that the both of you brought with you some of your art from when you were teens. So, did you want to start off with yours, Edna?
Oh,
That'd be great.
okay, I'll mix it up. Okay. Should I show just me as a kid too? Because I think
Yeah.
people should
Sure.
would
Let's
like.
do
Whatever
it.
you'd like to share, so people can get to know you and get to know, the work that you're doing.
Okay. It's not necessarily in order. I'll pull this
Oh,
up.
No, no worries.
Um, so for the audiences, Let's Go, the anthology is aimed towards young and older middle grade, I believe. And I think ages, what is it? 6 to 11, did we say? Around
like
that
that.
age.
I'm not sure. Actually, let's take a look at
It's
the
in the kids of all ages
it's
kind
kids of
of
all ages,
Kids of all
right?
situation.
ages,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the comic itself,
Including us.
yeah. Kids at heart, yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're not limiting it to, but the
No, no, not
story
at all.
itself features characters around those ages, I think.
Right,
So
right.
I think
Huh.
that's what
The
I'm
primary
aiming.
audience.
Here,
Yeah,
did you
yeah.
want me to
Yeah, yeah.
share screen and show the anthology page so people can get a feel for
Yeah, let's look at
it?
that before we talk
Yeah,
about.
let's take
Okay.
a peek at that
Sure.
while you're getting your photos ready for us. But here's our Kickstarter page, and of course it's 31 international creators, so we're not just here within the US, we're all over. And here's our Kickstarter page that we have, and the art was created by was it Elizabeth Rivera?
Ellie, she goes
Ellie,
by
she goes
Perez.
by Ellie Rivera. And
Perez, I think.
oh, sorry, Perez. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm thinking Rivera. Maybe it's because I'm seeing them in the river and I'm saying that, but my apologies. But let's go. It's a kids' comic studio anthology, and here it says it's a short comic stories. You'll meet young travelers who embark on a journey to encounter a creature that could be imaginary, fantastical, or even real. And this description reminds me a lot of it was what is it? It was our pact,
Oh, right. This is
right?
our pack.
This was our pact,
The
because
not
that's
graphic
kind of
novel, yeah.
like, the storyline that's going for that. And then, here we are. Who is this book for? Readers of kids comics and graphic novels, parents, educators, librarians, and booksellers who love comics and graphic novels, and of course kids comics and graphic novel creators. And that's kind of like the grouping that we're all in. And for people who aren't familiar with KCU, Kids Comics got started peak pandemic. We were all just kind of hanging out with the phenomenal graphic novelist agent, Jana Morishima, and she's kind of the glue that got us all together during the pandemic, where we were wondering what to do with our time, like a lot of the time that we had, and just built this community from that experience. And from there, we've been growing by leaps and bounds to where we are now. And we have this, anthology that's happening. So it's a super cool page that was put together. And so we have a blooper reel even that, folks can go and take a look at. And then, of course, the Kickstarter program of, what people can do to support this endeavor that we have to create this outstanding product. And I know that there are so many great members out of the group who are also participating in this. So we're going to show a little video a little later, but first let's take a peek at, you know, Edna when she was much younger, and some of the art that she had before the new art that she's showcasing in the anthology.
Okay,
Edna?
thank you. Thanks. I have it up now. Okay, so here I am. I'm in fifth
Oh
grade.
my gosh. Love it.
So
Very funny page.
cute.
For some reason, my freckles don't show up. I have a lot of freckles, but
So cute.
so- and then let's see
Yeah,
on. I was
this is awesome.
around that age, and a little bit older, I was into football. I loved football, and this shows this was created during Inktober in
Okay.
21. Go back, so it was through my growing up. Um, I lived in these apartments, and I learned how to do throw a spiral pretty well when I
Yeah.
was
Mhm.
in
And
middle
you can
grade.
see that in the art.
Yeah, and then just real quick, this
At
should
first,
be
I thought you made that
national
in high
football.
school. I was like, whoa, it looks the same. Same style.
And
Such
then she's like,
For-
consistency.
oh, it's like
That's for
October.
high school. Here's high school. Just to show you for fun that I was on a football, but it was like powder puff football. There's me.
Oh,
Wow.
We
Where are
we
you? Where are
we
you?
made
there you are in
history
the
at this
back.
high school. We were the seniors and we lost to the juniors. The
Oh,
first class to lose to the juniors. But I was a serious football player. Not everybody was. Okay, so moving on. This is this is a picture that I did
oh.
in high school. Me in high school. I took this watercolor class. I really enjoyed painting with that with watercolor. My teacher taught us a lot of techniques. And so I love surrealism too. So that's my playing around with that idea. That's supposed to be a shell down there. My head is in a shell and I have upside down waves above me.
That is
And then,
awesome.
and then so I was so serious into it. Everybody knew me as a visual artist. So we both Paul and I got most talented. You know how they do like the thing in high
Hmm.
school
At the end of the
Yeah.
year
at the end of
for
the
the
year.
yearbook.
Yeah, that's so that
Yep.
was kind of
That is
something
awesome.
now. So yeah, that's to show you
That is so
the
cool,
background.
Edna.
Thank you.
How about you,
Love
Maritza? I know
that.
you had some cool stuff to share as well.
Do you? Okay, let me see. It'll also likewise take me just a second to get these to you, but no.
Sure.
So here's the comic that you had seen already, and I'll
Hmm.
go next. Here are pictures of me. I on the background of the comic, but I'll zoom in a little bit. Here we go. Me playing around some sticks or something, being a little bunny. And here's with my bunny that I named Snow White on the right hand side. And up here is me in high school somewhere, squinting up into the sun, out in the desert,
You're
some
like,
sort of
I don't think I want to be
some sort
here.
of hostage picture. Yeah, I don't know what that is. So, but that is that's the age I was when I did these other works that I'm going to share with you. Some of them I was able to get them here.
Awesome.
So this
Oh,
is the front page of a magazine that I made in high school. Look, this 1998 or 1988. So this was eighth grade, ninth grade, no, ninth grade. It was fall semester of ninth grade, and I have a feeling that I misunderstood the assignment because I made an entire magazine from scratch with all of like my own ideas of all the features of an art magazine. I doubt that's what the teacher actually assigned to us, but somehow that's how I interpreted it. So my teacher held on to it for many years. And later when we found each other on social media, my English teacher, she actually sent it back to me so that I could have it
that is
in
amazing.
kind of like my little archive. So yeah, this is page one. And here is the second page. You can see I had like articles and had featured sections. I had this whole editor situation. I just I was kind of a lot in my creative
Wow.
Yeah.
goals. Like I said, I believe I misunderstood the assignment, but I did a lot of pages.
You did.
I don't
Wow.
know. Look,
Very
I made
good.
games.
Hmm.
Games.
No wonder
I
she
wrote
kept
this
it.
article.
She kept
Yeah.
it. It's
Exactly.
incredible.
She's like, "Wow, this kid." um,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I
it's a
made.
value, right? Because
Yeah,
a
I
lot of
love
times
it.
we'll make
Yeah,
art and then, I know I've heard, some parents who like literally they'll collect stuff and they'll like throw it out. And that's something that I feel, when your child is creative and they create something amazing like this, it's so important to maintain it or keep it. And so I don't
yeah,
throw anything away that like my kids made or,
yeah. Because you don't
anybody's
know
child
the
who's
value
given
of it
me.
at the time.
Right.
It means a lot more to me now than it did at that
Right.
time.
Because back then you
So yeah, I
probably
just
thought, oh, it's just
oh, here's the
just
thing.
art.
Well, I did work hard. I guess I was precious about the fact that it was a lot of work and I was excited about it.
Well, it looks like a lot of
Um,
work.
yeah. I made
Yeah.
a little art piece. I
Oh, look
included myself young at art. That's me as a baby
at
and made a little
that. Aw.
added an easel and a brush for myself. And I named myself Kirsty Kepfier. I don't know
I
what
don't
I was
see it.
thinking.
It's off screen now. Or maybe no.
Is it for
I'm
you?
Is it?
looking at
No,
it.
I can still
No,
see
no,
it.
I see it. I see it. I see
Oh,
I
you do? Okay.
for some
Look at
reason
what I named myself. Anyways, I don't know why why couldn't, oh yeah, there it is. Maritza Ruiz at her first approach to the easel. Oh, good. I kept my own name. I'm like, why did I name myself
Why didn't you
something weird?
rename yourself?
Okay.
Yes. Oh,
And this was a early self-portrait pencil. And I made it into some sort of Art Deco-ish type thing. And
hmm.
then next up is I went super emo.
Kind of like,
I don't know if this is like, strike a
hmm.
pose. Is this like
Right.
Madonna?
Madonna strike a
right.
pose. Yeah.
So,
You were just a little influenced by Vogue.
Yeah.
perhaps.
Yeah. This
Um,
is
yeah,
awesome.
so I made that as well. So, yeah, that is something to share later if we ended up having time. But those are the art things I made, and I have a different like my entry into comics was a lot different than Edna's because I was not a kid who was into comics as a
Mhm.
kid or a teenager. I thought comics were for other kids because I didn't see comics that related to me and that I only saw comics that were about muscly boys and men and, you know, female characters that were the sidekick most of the time.
Right.
I was not interested in those stories, even if they were, had story arcs and everything. I don't want to disparage, the interest in them. They just weren't for me. So I didn't find ones that meant something to me until maybe late high school or college when I read Mouse, which
Yes.
was, you know,
Intense.
seminal like influence. You know, I was already super interested in learning all things about, you know, the Holocaust and what humans are capable of, and just to see it, you know, shown in like pictures in this kind of like dramatic form was like super interesting to me. So yeah, my interest in, it's kind of why I showed that, like showed the magazine project I did as a teenager, because I've always been interested in words and stories,
Mhm.
pictures, I mean, pictures and words. And I worked as a editor in chief with an online magazine that I started with colleagues in the mid teens, I guess it was 10 years ago. We had a 6 years total. I was editor in chief for the first 3 years. So it was a, um, a specialty of a kind of fine art painting that we put together. So yeah, we had that come out. There's a lot of work in that as well. So I've kind of done a lot of these, you know, writing and art combined through the years. So here I am with the comics and wanting to do this for kids.
Yeah.
I can totally relate to that because my background as a freelance artist is with words,
Right.
Hmm.
pictures, and you know, besides the picture books that I've done and working in graphics, you know, it's the bread and butter of a lot of artists, right?
Right.
Graphics. And I also worked in a magazine. I enjoyed publication layout, so I think that that influences me as a in my layout with comics and
Yep.
also ad layout. I forgot there was this phase where I did a lot of display ad design
Mm.
for publications and you have
Mm.
to think fast and you have to work, you know, with concepts really fast and so that I think is it's all part of the the in the ingredients you bring into your comics, your
Right.
experience with the layout of other things and the way you think about storytelling and it's because there's so much to comics. It's really literature, you know, that
Well, it is. It's
visual
visual literacy. Yeah.
literacy and
Hmm.
literature.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, before we end, I wanted to share the little video clip that we put together to kind of give our friends here who are watching, you know, a brief overview of what to expect, who some of the other artists are that are on the project, and without further ado, let me share
Cool.
screen and play the video. All right, here we go. And there we go. Kept it very short, very
There's
brief.
so much amazing art. There's so much
Yeah.
amazing art that's going to be in this book. Like that's one of the features I love about this anthology, that that's kind of like the whole gamut of the interests. Like we were kind of talking about like how Edna totally found her love and what she connected with in
Mhm.
graphic, you know, in comics and graphic novel stuff. And I didn't even know it was available to me until later on. And I just love that there's so many different kinds of storytellers and kinds
Right.
of artists that are coming together in this anthology with like over 30 creators from all over the world.
Right.
And yeah, I think it's going to be a treasure for people to get their hands on, to see all the different ways this can, you know, all these stories can be told. It's going to be cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to
And
read them. I haven't read them yet either.
yeah, yeah, it's gonna be a treat for us, you know, like
Right.
we to see everybody's stories and to read it. Also, I want to just say that we have uh, this newsletter and blog that we've been
Mhm.
Ah,
collecting
yes,
information. You
Yes.
know, Maritza and I were
of course.
co-editors of the newsletter, and um, so those articles were saved into the blog, and people can find out
Yeah, we
about
totally have to
back-
share that.
yeah, the backside
Yeah, please do.
of what it is. Yeah, what it is that we put together, how we put it
Hmm.
together. We wanted to share that too. And
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great resource for anyone else who's considering, you know, what it takes to do an anthology with your friends. Like, what is
Mhm.
involved? It certainly doesn't need to be 30 people. It doesn't need to be um, to the extent that we did with these, teams that we put together with marketing,
Mhm.
editorial, publishing. What are all
Mhm.
the things? What else is there, Edna?
Well,
There's so
there's a
many,
really, uh, um, are you talking about the different
We
just
have a
all
parts?
the
lot of
teams of
teams.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a publication, there's marketing. I mean, and
yeah.
there's of course the cover team itself. That
The
was like
cover team, yep.
that was
Uh-huh.
very like that was a later team because once we had to, set up our whole system around that, and then also
Right.
we had also what was it called? A
And all,
project management team for a
Project management
while
team,
right,
yes.
because it was
right,
very
right.
intensive to try to, and that was for as long as we needed to just kind of keep track because there's so many moving parts in a big
Hmm.
project like this. And then
Exactly.
after we had things going, then we didn't need to have those types of meetings anymore. So we were running it, I think, pretty efficiently.
There's
Edna
a
and
lot
I
that
came
went into
together
this.
to, yeah, to take over the newsletter piece and to be able to get into people's inboxes just a sense of like how this anthology process is working. And that was kind of our guiding theme in this first iteration of the newsletter. Like before the Kickstarter launch started gearing up, like we were just trying to share as many resources as possible. So
Hmm.
you'll see like two interviews with Jana about how the anthology came about. You've
Right.
got how the title was decided on,
Hmm.
how we chose a theme.
Yeah, so much
There's just
information.
a yeah, there's a lot here
Right.
for comic illustrators, how to work with an author. You want to know
Hmm.
that when you're trying to take on more projects. Um, why we chose Kickstarter, how to use Kickstarter.
Hmm.
Here's designing a cover, like when you've got a team that's putting together a cover, like how you're going to walk through all the decisions to come up first with the brief, and then you've got like starter like thumbnails, and then you're bringing it into the final and color, like all the choices that are made leading up to that. And here's our most recent is going from being someone who's more familiar with writing in a long form to writing a short, you know,
Right.
6-page comic, 8-page comic, like we had open
Oh,
to everyone who submitted. Yeah, I can walk through that a little bit. Like there was
yeah,
different choices.
he was actually like talking about how like a comic format helped him go from longer comics. I think he had an eight,
Yep,
and then he did something in 2 pages and 1 page.
right.
Right.
So
Yeah, just even
look
like the
at, yeah,
visual
a good article to
the
look at. Yeah.
tools. Hmm.
But the
Yeah.
cover article is really revealing. Uh, that cover article shows like the different parts about
Hmm.
yeah, they have like they
Look
pulled
at
out
the visuals
some of their
here.
works. Yeah,
Hmm.
that too. So
So they had like a brief that they put before the three artists who were making proposals
Right.
for that and the editorial team. And then they did a first round of design comps, what they brought to each other and shared, and started bringing it into final themes. So they
Hmm.
put their heads together. So you've got it all here. You can go in. I'll just, since we have this in video, I'll go ahead and just walk through that. When you go to the Kids Comics Unite website, you can go into blog, view all blog posts, and
Hmm.
then you would here you would just select anthology team, and that's where you'll see everything that is specific to the anthology creation. So yeah, there
Now I
we
have
are.
to ask you guys this question. I know that
Mhm.
you both are author illustrator. Were there any submissions that were author only and then they were paired up
Mhm.
with someone to do
Yep,
as a collab
mhm.
for
yep,
some of
Yeah,
the panels?
yeah, we have a
yep.
number of those that are teams too, and it was all in the beginning. The process
Mm-hmm.
of
Hmm.
presenting your works was in the beginning.
Yeah, if you were an author who was interested in just, who wasn't ready to illustrate but was interested in doing this, you would put your name kind of
Mm-hmm.
out there and kind of join up with someone who you could work with. So yeah,
Awesome.
definitely.
So now what do you guys want the takeaway to be? When someone, supports or backs, um, an anthology book, like what is the takeaway for them?
Can we put it back on the launch page?
Sure. Yeah.
So like if it's
I
related.
can do the stop share, and
I think, yeah,
I
I
think
can.
Nadia, you have that.
Yes.
Yeah, because I think that might be a good place to land, like to wrap it up.
Hmm.
Talking
Yeah.
about. Um, yeah, like a good takeaway, I think would be that if you're interested in comics and specifically in the middle grade, this is a really exciting book to look at to see all the different types of stories that have come
Hmm.
together for it and all the different styles. And I think it could be of value for kids and adults who love comics and also in schools, I think, because graphic novels and comics are being studied for
Right.
themes and as well as the storytelling, the way to tell the story. There's so much that you can glean from comics, the art of comics and the literature, like we talked about, sort of broad term. But do you want to add to that,
Hmm.
so that idea, literature and literacy?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I think, well, I was just gonna say like the different people that something they can take away with it. It goes as wide as like being like a family with young kids who's just gonna have a new book to share with their kid that gets possible like connection with the kinds of stories, that mean more to them than others. What are they going to follow? What gets them excited? But it's also like to be able to see the process because the intro comic is kind of describes that we were 30 creators coming together to do this. So I think that's pretty fun. I didn't realize that until today, that there's a comic that opens opens the whole concept of the book to
Right.
see like how did this get into your hands, like that's part of the that first comic. So I think that'll be inspiring to any comics creator just to see that it's possible to do that. And I think it just serves like as an inspiration for people to know that they can go forward, go forth and do the same with their
Right.
friends.
So now,
And having, yeah,
is it that each story moves not to interrupt you, but like, since we're on the
of course,
topic, that like
yeah.
each story moves the book along, or moves the theme along? So it's kind of like,
Oh,
is there one story arc from
No,
like
no,
that
no,
no,
first
no,
book,
no,
or
no,
are they all
no,
just
not at all.
very
No,
no, not
separate
to give
stories?
you that impression.
independent.
Okay,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah,
all
yeah,
independent.
yeah.
Okay.
Just that first one kind of sets the stage for how this even came about. Like why are there, 30 creators coming together, making all these disparate stories, but they are unified under the theme of the journey,
Hmm.
as it's explained. So
Yeah, yeah, and
that's
me as a um, uh, art teacher, working with all ages, a lot of ages of students, mainly grade school and middle grade. I find that comics are a great way to introduce them to storytelling, and many of the students love art, or they like the challenge, or are maybe ready for the challenge of storyboarding, because there's so many different parts of making comics. Storyboarding into final, there's so many components of it that you can use in lessons. So I
yep,
I really value that about comics too, and
yep,
showing something like this
yeah, for sure.
really
Yeah,
exciting.
Now, do you
yep.
think, well, we'll have to wait and see, but like, are there any plans for making this like an anthology of an anthology? Like there's going to be like a series almost?
Oh no.
Or
Heard
is
a
We're
that
little
too
chatter.
ambitious?
we're like we've learned a lot from this, and I think we're going to take a lot of this and let it like marinate for a while, because
Hmm.
it's a lot of work that went
Oh
into
yeah.
this, a lot of work
Right.
and
I
When
work
would
you're finishing a
say
book.
there's beginnings of chatter about that, but I think realistically we have to get a little bit more forgetful about all the work it took before we would endeavor to do it again.
Do it again. Yeah.
It's kind of like having a
Yeah,
kid. You have to forget about,
exactly. Correct.
oh,
Yeah. And
pregnant.
Very true.
To end this off for us, like, what is your anticipation, for how your story will impact someone or Edna's story will impact someone?
I would say for me, it's just the 6 pages. But I if my story resonates with someone, I hope it's that they know that if they are injured or broken or maybe not up to the task of their original dream, that they can keep going and they can find a way that works for them within the limitations that they have. Like it's the dream might change
Hmm.
um a bit, but it doesn't mean it's over. So I'm kind of that's a lot to put on a 6 page comic, but I hope that it
Right.
resonates like that for some people.
How about
Awesome.
you, Edna?
Well, I have to say mine isn't as
Sorry,
super
I'm all
deep as
like,
that. Mine is more on
change
the
the rules.
entertaining side. I
Yes,
hope my readers are
I love
entertained
it.
and
Yes,
someone and
yes,
get some of the little jokes that I
very
have
good.
in there. And then, but I have like at the end there is some sort of twist. I was influenced also by Twilight Zone, so
Oh my gosh,
there is
yes.
that
Oh,
kind of
I love
fate
Twilight
in
Zone.
it at
Oh,
the
so
end.
much.
Well, not necessarily exactly Twilight Zone-ish, but it was part of my inspiration.
Black
Having
Mirror.
Twilight
I
Zone
love it.
angle, and well, you'll see.
Loved
Hopefully
it.
we'll
I
get the
love
music
Twilight Zone and
story.
like the Ray Bradbury type of
Yep,
stuff. Yes,
that
for
is so
sure.
exciting. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon and
Thank
talking
thank
about the
you, Nadia.
anthology.
This is lovely.
Thank you for
Yeah,
having
you're very welcome. And so, for those of you watching, we hope to see you on the Kickstarter page. So, follow us on IG at KCS Anthology and Kids Comics Unite. And so you can keep track of what's going on, as well as the websites that we showed you and what's happening on the anthology page off the website. So, I wish you guys a great evening, and don't forget to back this project, because there
Yep.
are artists and authors who poured their hearts and souls onto the pages, and I can't wait to get my own copy and just support creatives. And so with that, let's
There's
go
a
to the Kickstarter
Woo.
page.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Good night,
See you
everyone.
later.